Hello, Coy. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, it's been so long since I've had an opportunity to get an interview with you. So, what have you been up to lately?
Oh gosh, working. I have been working my life away and going to church and trying to stay on top of life.
Okay. I've been watching you at the Fountain of Praise in Houston for all the Houston people. Sometimes Coy is on
Yes.
the praise and worship team, and so the Fountain. I have been there. I have seen, and the water is flowing, and so I'm inviting anybody to the Fountain of Praise. So today's interview, if I had to title it with your help, would be Emotional Release. And so the way that this came about, Cole and I were speaking, and I was saying that oftentimes in relationships, it seems like the men at times are accused of not showing care and concern when it comes to something difficult based off of our answers or even sometimes our actions.
Mhm.
And so, Corey, do you have anything to share before we go on?
Um, no, go on. I mean, yes,
Okay.
I definitely agree with that statement. Yes.
And so, one of the things that I notice, I'm going to speak for myself. Sometimes someone has asked me a question like, do you care? And in my mind, I'm like, of course I care. I told you I care. But they weren't receiving whatever release
Mm-hmm.
they needed to move on. And then I
Mm-hmm.
noticed it just wasn't with me, but just from a male viewpoint, looking at some women who have been involved in relationships. And when I'm speaking to my friends, whether they're male or female, a woman may say something like, I just need to know that as much as it hurt or bothered me, that you felt the same.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, in those conversations, they were looking for the man, or they're looking for me to express something that lets them know that what they went through, I went through. And when they don't get that response, or when they don't perceive that that's the actual facts, then they can't seem to move on in some areas. But then from a male standpoint, when I'm speaking to the fellas and I tell them, man, do you understand this? And they act like, no, man, I don't know. That's just women. And I said, no, because a lot of younger men, I'm not going to say older, but a lot of younger men, they'll say statements like, do you feel me? Or you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And they're
Yeah.
looking for an affirmation or a confirmation that whatever they've said to whomever they've said it to, that it was understood or heard. And if they don't get that, they'll keep saying that, like, man, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I was like, wow, Corey. I said, I think this could help somebody. And so, Corey, what has been your experience when facing or hearing those kinds of terms come from men or women?
Um, reality is men and women, we're different. We're different in the way that we process our emotions. Women, we are generally looked at as being overly sensitive, but I believe that we are more in tune to our emotions and the emotions of others. Most of us are. And men, you guys are just, men are wired differently. So I'll say, like in my interaction with my last relationship, sometimes it was hard in knowing whether or not he cared because he didn't show emotions to me, but he naturally came off and didn't really show emotions. And so a lot of times I needed reaffirmation on whether or not he cared about me or cared about a situation we were discussing based on maybe his nonchalantness or even his facial expression. It's just the way that you guys are wired. And so, I mean, I think for me, I feel like men, it's just that you guys having to come off as being so strong and not sensitive and not really wanting to show those emotions, that makes it a lot more difficult. I don't know, like you guys have to be macho all the time, and it's really not necessary in dealing with women. We want you to be vulnerable. This should be a vulnerable space.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak from a first person standpoint. For me, when I've heard that term used in reference to me, I'm really in shock because I'm like, I say what I mean. And to me, I don't have a hidden agenda or of I don't need to show her this because she's going to perceive me as weak or vulnerable. Because the bottom line, I think that if you spend quality time with people in whatever relationships you're in, whether that's a marriage, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a working relationship, they're going to find out who you are, so to speak. And so I don't feel a need to hide, but I've been accused or it's been stated, I know you don't feel like I feel. And then my question is, well, what are your feelings? And then I may say something like, no, I feel that way, but whatever you're looking for to determine that I feel that way, I don't seem to be conveying that to you. And all I have is my word. And if you don't know me to be a liar and I tell you, well, yes, that bothers me. The same way it bothered you, that bothers me. I don't know why she can't get it. So I'm speaking of me. What would you say on that note?
If you were speaking to me, then the dialogue is just different. Like it's for me, I'm always asking probing questions. So to hear that type of response, that would be sufficient for me. Other than asking, is it, do you realize that you come off as not showing emotions if that were the case?
Mm-hmm.
Or I ask this because I feel this way.
Okay. With that being said, with the thought that comes to me again, I believe that everybody wants to be accepted for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'm going to keep it first person because there's so many other men that I know their personalities and my personalities, they're different. And so I'll just keep it with me and I'll say, when I say something and I'm questioned about it, I can understand that from the viewpoint of, okay, maybe my facial expression said something different. But if I'm consistent in my treatment and my words towards an individual, and they still question after I have stated something, affirmed that, and even repeated that, now that becomes somewhat of an aggravation. And when I say an aggravation, it's like, I just want to be me. I'm not saying I just want to be me. I don't care how you are. No, I just want to be me. And if you can't seem to communicate with me being me, then that speaks to whatever, whether it's a working relationship, a marriage, or a friendship, that speaks to me that that's just a countdown to a separation. What do you think about that?
I agree. But you said something key. If you're showing consistency, so your verbiage is consistent, your actions are consistent. Reality is sometimes you just have to come to terms that this is just the way a person is, and know that because this is just who they are. Understand that they care regardless of what you see, and their behaviors are consistent. It's an issue when it's not consistent. When there's inconsistency, that's when there's an issue. And so you have no choice but to question, like, well, what is it? How do you really feel?
And what do you think? And I know this is just your opinion. What do you think that comes from? Because although you and I are having this discussion, a lot of the things that we're talking about, they're unspoken with a lot of people. But when you begin to speak about it, people, oh, yeah, I know what that is. And yeah, I experienced that. So what do you think that is, that a person is inconsistent in conveying what they feel in a relationship?
It varies, but sometimes I truly feel like a person just does not know how to interpret their feelings, how to express their feelings. So a lot of times I feel like men, they avoid certain emotions. And I just think, for the most part, men, sometimes, not all, but they don't really know how to be vulnerable.
And so with that being stated, if you were giving a class or if you were giving advice, matter of fact, if you're giving me advice and I'd say, Coy, as a man, I really don't know how to safely show my vulnerability to a woman when I'm in a relationship with her, what kind of advice would you give me?
I would tell you to just be honest about how you're feeling. accept whether or not it's a good and a positive emotion or a negative emotion, you know, and if you trust the person that you're speaking with and you understand that it's a safe space, you shouldn't have any issue with doing that.
I hear you. I can only share that at times, to me, it seems to me that women, they don't really listen to things they don't want to hear.
What do you
And my
mean?
example would be if I tell you, I am feeling this way, this is how I see it. And in the next breath, it's like you act like I didn't even say it. That's the equivalent to me to where you may be sharing what went on at work. And the first thing that I respond is, well, man, what are we going to do this weekend?
Okay, I got you.
And,
Like
and
totally
so,
avoid it. Yeah, it's like like you didn't say anything.
yes. And so when I'm speaking to, obviously, I haven't been in the room with a lot of my friends and their significant others, but the thing that I hear is that, well, she's not listening to me. I heard what she said. I can repeat what she said. I can acknowledge that there is a degree of truth in what she's saying. But when I ask her about what I'm saying or when I stated it, there's no response. There's nothing. And I'm like, really? And so I'm just saying, for this conversation, a lot of men are saying how they're feeling, but women either don't believe them or they act like they didn't hear.
I mean, I think it just goes back to, and I'll say this based on my experience. It's either I'm gonna question sometimes some of the things that you tell me if your words and your actions are totally different. You can't be sometimey in your actions, but telling me that you care, doing what you want to do, but telling me that you care. Or if I'm talking to you as just as you said, if I'm speaking to you and telling you how I feel about a certain situation, I'm telling you how it makes me feel just so that we can communicate. And it's like I'm talking to a brick wall. That's showing me right there in this particular conversation that you really don't care, whether that's true or not. But this is what I'm getting from this particular moment. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
And so when you say that, and I'm asking you, what is the line of compromise? Meaning, how much give, and I'm speaking to you, how much give do you give in that scenario? Meaning, simply put, I'm not getting the responses that not only that I want, but that I need. And so how far are you going to go to compromise to try to bring that about? Or what is the line where you just, that's it. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. And I can move.
Reality is you can't force it. You can't force anything. Like, it's difficult because it depends on the individuals. It really does. It depends on individuals. But for me, I give until I can't give anymore. Like, I might give a bit much, too much. But I do, in terms of maybe sometimes I feel like, let me let up on this particular situation, because maybe he doesn't know, and maybe he needs to process this, and we'll come back and revisit it. But then if we revisit it and it's the same old, I'm dealing with either, okay, either this is just who this person is, and they are unaware, and my making them aware, they're not doing anything about it. That's the second thing. If I'm making you aware and you're not doing anything about it, then there's a problem.
And I'll only say what continues to run around in my mind, and I hold conversations a lot of times with younger men because of my job, but then older men because of my friendships, that I don't think a person can give what they don't have.
True.
And as a man, if I have not gotten to know myself and you continue to press me because you want to know me,
Yeah.
the me that you're looking for is the word that I'm looking for. It's a variable. He's a variable. What do you mean by I don't know who I am?
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me or get me to show you how I feel and who I am. And I haven't done that for myself. And
Yeah.
sad to say that beyond high school, I'm just saying beyond high school, there is no perfect age, but beyond high school, the expectation of a lot of women is that, well, you above the age of 21, you're supposed to know who you are, or you have acquired these certain things in life. You're supposed to know who you are. And just me, who sets the bar for how old a man is when he should know himself?
Yeah. I mean, I think it really depends on that man's circumstances, because I can say, in my own personal experience in dealing with a man, like in knowing at his particular age, feeling like he wasn't, based on his background, he wasn't the typical guy. So I was a lot more understanding and patient in areas where I generally would not be because of his situation, because of his background, feeling like, okay, well, when a man is at this particular age, you should know how to do XYZ. You should know. Now, I do feel like after a certain amount of time, though, Sean, you should know. After a certain
Okay.
amount of time, you should know.
And okay. And I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying, who says that? What I'm saying, what law is on the books? What rule? What part of human nature determines at this age you should know yourself? Because I would offer up to you, and you could speak on this better than me. There are a lot of women, grown women. When I say grown women, I'm going to say women who are 45 or better, who they will readily admit, you know what, I just got comfortable with my hair. I just got comfortable with my body.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if I were to say this to women, hey, there's a 45-year-old or plus man who he really is a little boy emotionally, they would laugh, or they may make the statement that you made. Well, he should know. And it's not that I'm making a dogmatic statement, but I'm saying, based solely off of the social media things today and YouTube interviews and what seems to be popular in culture, there's a whole lot of women that are acting like little girls.
Yeah.
When it comes to hair, body, skin tone. But that can be, that can be helped. That can be, we need a group for that. We need to come together and talk about that. We need coaching for that. But the man who is acting like a little boy emotionally, he needs to be rebuked. He needs to grow up. He needs to get his act together. Do you think, based off of what I said, there's a double standard?
Possibly. Possibly.
Okay.
But I don't. That's kind of. Let me see. What am I trying to say, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, for me, and I know this is the case for a lot of women, though.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, I feel like men are a lot more immature than women. Period. I do.
Mm.
I do. Naturally, I do. Not the case for all men, but for the most part, that has been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that when it comes to talking about matters of the heart or about your feelings or emotions and things like that, I know that men are not generally encouraged to talk about those things. So I get it to a certain perspective, but I do feel like when it comes to when I say a man is considered childish or a little boy, when you are not able to express how you feel to me, it's one thing when I know you're trying, but when I know you just completely shut down and you're not even trying to learn how to be vulnerable or express yourself, I do have an issue with that. I do.
Mm. I understand it. And the reason why we're having this conversation, because one, I think that good conversations are keys to relationships.
Absolutely. That was where I was going next. Absolutely.
And this is just my personal opinion. I feel like a bunch of conversations are not being had because feelings and emotions, and I'm clarify what I mean, are wrapped up in it. Simply put, I made this statement to somebody a little something like this. I say, bro, if you're sleeping with her, if you are taking her places, then she's going to expect a certain level of commitment and understanding. And when that's not there, and you try to say things like, I'm not ready, or I didn't know, your actions with your money and your actions with your body are saying something different.
Yeah.
And then when I'm speaking to the women on this behalf, I'm saying, listen, you're smart, you're intelligent. I mean, you explained it to the nth degree what he should be. But the other side of that is, I'm not quite sure you really see who he is because you caught up in your emotions. So he's trying to make excuses for emotions that he's never dealt with. And I'm saying she's dealing with emotions because I love him or I like him.
Yeah.
And so they can't have a conversation with each other because they're caught up. And that's one reason I thank God personally, for good friends such as yourself and other people and brothers and sisters in the church, because that's where I believe that we need to have other relationships beyond the personal ones that we have with the opposite sex, to where we can dialogue from the outside looking in. Because when you're in that bubble with another individual, as hard as you want to try, there's some things taking place that create, I believe, natural blind spots. And the reason I say natural blind spots, because there's an old adage and it says love is blind. I'm not going to say love is blind, but I'm going to say, just like John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. When you love somebody, I'm not going to say you're blind. I'm going to say you're sacrificed. So it's not that you didn't see it. It's not that you didn't hear it. It's, I'm going to show mercy. I'm going to show understanding. But once you've done that long enough, and once you've done that more than a few times, that's when it might change a little bit. So what do you think about that?
I agree. Because at some point it just becomes a big merry-go-round with and it never stops. You have the continuous conversations, and because you have your own understanding and she has her own understanding, there's no resolution. So it's just a continuous pattern that repeats itself with no resolve.
And so with that, this is something that I've wondered for others, but this is how I practice. Male or female, meaning if I continue to have misunderstandings or aggravations, or we just can't seem to get it right, then once I've done all that I can do, I just don't do anymore. And I'm not saying I give up. I'm saying that what I will do is, when I've compromised as much as I can, the ball is in your court. And that doesn't mean that I cut you off. That just means my communication with you is limited. There's nothing more for me to say. I can be a good listener. I can be an excellent learner. But for me, in this relationship, this friendship, this employment, I don't have anything else to say. So if you want to speak to me, ever you want to interact with me, know that I'll listen at any moment. But to continue to go back and forth, emotionally draining conversations, somebody has to yield. And that's why I say I'm not going to cut them off, because to me, that's giving up. And if we got to the point where we put in all that time and all that effort, once again, whether it's marriage, whether it's at work, whether it's a relationship, then we had something on the line as far as knowing one another. And I believe, just in my mind, if I just leave the door open, if something's going to change or something's going to come out of it, I've told you, I've exasperated all efforts on my behalf, then I'm not going to say I take the weight off of me, but what I'm saying is I no longer feel that pull to always deal with it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I definitely agree. I got a question for you. At what point do you feel like, and I'm asking you this from my own personal experience.
Okay.
If you feel like you've exhausted all efforts, but she doesn't feel like you have, based on the things that she's requested
Mm-hmm.
or stated that she needed, but and you acknowledge that you haven't done X, Y, Z. Would you still feel like you've exhausted all your efforts?
Yes. The simple answer is yes. But can I provide a little understanding with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, my grandfather had a saying, and I used to laugh every time he would say it. He said, "You can't get blood from a turnip." So if I tell you, Coy, I am emotionally bankrupt when it comes to dealing with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you that I'm okay with you saying I didn't do enough, I don't know enough, I haven't shared enough. But along with all of those statements that I'm making, I need you to understand that I'm saying I'm still available to listen. I'm still available to learn. But I'm telling you, there's not one more thought, one more prayer, one more intervention that I have in me, because I have nothing else that I can cognitively say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I alluded to earlier. If I tell you this is what it is, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that more doesn't need to come. But if as a man, I'm admitting to you, this all I got, what more can I do? And remember, I'm saying personally, I've left the door open for you. But if you're listening to what I'm saying, whatever you're about to tell me, it's going to have to shift, meaning the weight is going to have to shift to where I'm not giving you instructions. I'm telling you, hey, the ammo is empty. My gun is empty. Mm-hmm. So whatever shot's going to be fired, they got to come from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, I'm just saying, Sean, I'm still invested because I just told you my ears are open too. So my question to you would be like, how is that not enough? Not how is that not enough, meaning I'm justified, but how is that not enough when I've given all?
That should be enough if you state it that way. That should be enough. And you have no choice but to leave it alone and respect it.
And so let me ask you, if that was the case, if I said that to you and you understand and acknowledge, okay, intellectually, I can't go no further, Sean, that, you gave it to me.
Right.
The other part of you, which is, I'm still wanting something. How would that look in actuality? Meaning intellectually, you like, inside your own mind, you like say, I don't have I can't say anymore because he's saying he did everything, but I'm still wanting. How do you deal with that?
I dealt with it. I dealt with it, and it's painful. Like, I mean, really, there's nothing more you can do. Ultimately, you just have to respect it. However, I will say, with my own experience with a situation very, very much similar, the issue I had was after having that particular conversation, still talking on a daily basis. It was like nothing ceased outside of physical connection. Mm-hmm. Nothing else ceased at all, from seeing each other, from talking every day. And so for me, the person that wanted it more, it gave me mixed signals.
Mm-hmm.
Routine was the same. Calling me in the morning when you go to work, calling me at night before you go to bed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So that's what made it tough, even that much more tougher for he and I.
Even at a young age, I had a belief. I said, man, I'm never going to have regrets when it comes to love.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I said that, didn't have a lot of experience in that area, but when I said that, I lived that. But one of the keys to that, well, there were two. One was compromise,
Mm-hmm.
and the other was sacrifice. And so, although I've been in love twice, both of them left me with good imprints in my heart about love. But obviously, if I'm not with either individual, those good imprints did not include continuing to be with that individual.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say compromise, meaning I was willing to compromise and just say, this is not it. And even though it's going to hurt me more to let her go, this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not going to be my way. It's not going to end like a fairy tale. And I've done that. And then I've done the other, which is, okay, there's still a chance, but man, I've put this individual through so much. What is best for them? Meaning I'm going to take me out.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you'll keep going on and on and on and on. And when I say sacrifice, hey, I care enough about you to understand that what I'm costing you or bringing into your life is hurting you or affecting you in a manner that I'm going to sacrifice what I perceive to be my happiness, because I see we can't be happy together.
Yeah,
and it's not
I
because
respect
we
that.
can't be together. It's
Yeah.
just because the way I am, it's not going to end well.
Yeah,
Any thoughts?
I respect that totally. I will respect that totally.
Okay. Well, I'm also going, I'm going to share this. Without Jesus Christ, now I'm speaking for me.
Okay.
Without Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be able to even hold this conversation, or I wouldn't even have a mind to hold this conversation, because this conversation is not coming out of abstract ideas or, hey, let's just talk about something. You're sharing experiences. I'm sharing experiences, but I'm also saying, to be able to tie up those loose ends, I couldn't have done it without Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that first love, okay, was able to intellectually compromise and realize some things, and okay, that's it. But that second one, no. If it had not been for the Lord,
Yeah.
I might still be messed up about that. And
Yeah.
it was my fault, but I needed some introspection from the Word of God, from the Holy Spirit. And when I got it, I accepted that for what it was, meaning this: sometimes you can get the truth and it's so painful, you don't want to live it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on, it's very painful, but I'm going to live it. This is just what it is. And sometimes I've never told a lady that, but I've told friends that are close to me, bruh, sometimes you just don't get her. That's it. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's, you need to be healthy with the fact that you're not going to get her.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those situations where I've had to state that, the individual has just done too much. And when I say the individual, whether it was the male or whether it was the female, they've just done too much to where it's irreparable.
Yeah.
but because there were feelings or there's love, that's hard to admit because it feels like, well, I gave up. No, you don't have to give up to end something.
Yeah.
Sometimes your health, sometimes your wholeness, not I gave up like I'm a quitter, not I gave up, I could have done it harder. No, sometimes you've given all that you can give. You can't give no more. I didn't say won't give, can't give.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, I don't get that. Okay. And that's some big boy, big woman acceptance right there.
You got to. But when you actually come together and have that conversation, that's yeah, you can't do nothing but respect it. Like it's an adult, mature conversation. But when you just walk away, that's where the more hurt comes in at. It's like, what? You made a decision? What? You're not gonna talk to me about it?
So let's see, can we do this real quick? Let's just, we might not be able to do it, but if there was a role reversal based off of anything that you and I have talked about right here, can you put yourself in the male's shoes?
I can.
And I'm gonna put myself in the female shoes from the perspective. And does that shed any more understanding on what we're discussing from your viewpoint?
No.
Okay. From my viewpoint, it does, because the first thing that came to me, now I'm just saying for me, I said, well, if I had to look at it from the female viewpoint, the first thought I have is back with Adam and Eve when sin entered the world. One of the punishments was that they were going to have to have some hardships. But another one of the punishments, I'm not reading into the text more so than not, I believe it says that, now this was a punishment. The woman's desire towards the man was going to cause some difficulties. Did I read that right? As we're doing this interview, let me look up my scripture because I want to quote this and see. And that was just the only reason I thought of that when I said from the woman's perspective. If I was the woman and I'm saying, okay, look, this is not only not working, it's some X factor stuff going on in here that I really am not understanding why I'm feeling this way or whatnot. And so as I'm searching for this brief scripture, any comments from you? Okay, no. Here it is. This is God. God said to the woman, he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. Well, I haven't had a child, but just from the women I've spoken to, it can, some less, some more. There's a little bit of pain there. So that's being lived out. And it says, your desire shall be contrary to your husband.
And he'll rule over you.
But he shall rule over you. I know we not having Bible study, but just simply put, it seemed like it's going to be some problems. And I know this is speaking about husband and wife, but back then they didn't go to the courthouse. Marriage was sex, meaning we had this sex, that's marriage. If somebody's saying something different, it wasn't no papyrus or paperwork back then. It was when you went on in there that you're married, so to speak. Old Testament, ancient times. And so in the Amplified, it says, yet your desire and longing will be for your husband. My point being, I think at times, in some shape, form, or fashion, even where sex may be absent, that the longing of a woman towards a man in difficult times, there's a nature there, as you say, we're different, but there's a nature there that's working to where even where common sense or intellectual sense or emotional maturity just goes out the door. Any comments on that?
I agree. I agree.
So we not only working in the earth, we not only
Yeah.
working in the earthly realm, we got some spiritual stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, reality is, because we know what premarital sex does, like, and you have your own selfish desires, and
Mhm.
when you get involved in that, issues are bound to happen. It really is.
Okay. And so, what are some takeaways our audience could leave this interview with from your viewpoint?
I think off top, um, learn to be honest about how you feel, and be able to express how you feel, open and honestly.
And from me, realize that sometimes, no matter how bad you want it, how much you prayed for it, how much you waited on it, sometimes what you want is just not what you're going to get. And rather than live unhappily continually,
Mm-hmm.
find through baby steps, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, a way to remove yourself from that situation intentionally every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's good.
so, what'd you say?
That's good.
Well, the reason baby step, because sometimes emotions can seem like they have us trapped. And the reality is those are decisions we make in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you that the situation is hopeless, that's because that's what I've chose to have as a thought in my mind.
Yeah.
Just like somebody can look, I'm gonna go in the Bible again. You had 12 spies, 10 is hopeless. We can't do it. And even though the God that we heard talk from the sky said we could do it, we still don't believe we can do it. But 2 said not only can we do it, we ready to roll. And so that's why I said intentionally every day, every thought that we do have the ability to change those thoughts. But when we caught up emotionally, and I'm speaking from experience, it takes a continual, intentional, one decision after another to pull up out of some of those emotional bondages. And
It
especially when we
does.
talk about relationships.
It does. It really does. It does.
Okay.
It does. I mean, for me, I'm still healing,
Mm,
honestly speaking. And the only way I know to heal, I would not be able to, I would not be where I am speaking to you right now if it were not for Christ, me knowing Christ,
mm.
me falling down on my face, crying out. And reality is you heal by, you have to face the issues that you're dealing with, and embrace it. And it's a fight every day. It's a fight every day.
And I just want to continue to state what you and I both know, but I don't know about you, but I have to remind myself, you are not alone.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you are not alone. So now, since I'm trying to stir up something in you, do you have a song for us to leave on? Could we get a song?
Oh gosh.
I mean, a
No,
piece.
why?
This not a performance. This just a little piece. We just stirring up the gift. Because I know if the gift is in operation, I know where your mind to be right then. I told you intentionally, one step at a time. So I'm just trying to intentionally help my sister before we leave. A piece.
Uh I ain't got nothing.
You what?
I said I ain't got nothing.
I'll give you a simple one. How about that? I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today. I think that might do something for you. Do you know that song?
But yeah.
What,
I
what, what?
love you.
Mhm.
I love you. I love you, Lord, today because you cared for me in such a special way. That's why I praise you. I lift you up. I magnify your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise.
I don't know what it did for you, but it worked for me.
My heart, my mind, my soul belongs to you. You paid the price for me way back on Calvary. That's why I praise you. I lift you up. I magnify your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise. All right.
Thank you. I know that's going to bless somebody. It blessed me. And you have a lovely evening.
Thank you. You as well.